Neal Brown didn't mince his words after the loss to Penn State this past Saturday in State College. Does Neal Brown want revenge next year when the Nittany Lions visit Morgantown? We're going to discuss that, kind of talk about the comments after the game, and James Franklin's response right after this word from our sponsor. This episode of Mountaineer Paul Talks Football is brought to you by Dutch Miller Automotive, where friends and family pricing means you get the best deal right up front on any new or pre-loved vehicle in stock every time. With brands like Chevrolet, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Kia, Hyundai, Ford, GMC, Buick, and Subaru, the Dutch Miller Automotive family is always growing and ready to put you in the car or truck you've been searching for. Check out our inventory today across West Virginia at DutchMillerAuto.com or come in today to the home of friends and family pricing, only at a Dutch Miller Automotive store near you.
This is for Cameron.
What is up, guys, and welcome back and welcome in. My name is Mountaineer Paul, and you've landed right here again at Mountaineer Paul Talks Football. Thank you guys for all the comments on Twitter, X, whatever we call it now, on the last couple videos I've done. You guys are really giving me some record reaction and interaction, and I just want to thank you for that, guys. You guys are extremely loyal listeners, and I appreciate you for that. To all my new Penn State listeners, I appreciate you guys. You guys were awesome leading up to the Penn State game, and I want to give you guys a special shout-out because you guys kick ass, man. And also just your knowledge of the game. I respect it. You're extremely respectful for the most part. And you're just basically rabid fans, a lot like we are. The only difference really between Penn State and West Virginia outside the winning history is maybe a little bit of size. Outside of that, culturally, we have a lot in common, guys. And I really just want us to give you a special shout out and thank you for how you guys treated me. So don't get too mad about the video I'm about to do. As a content creator, we got to do what we got to do, right? It begs the question, though. Is Neal Brown pissed over what happened Saturday in State College? Well, I've got something we're going to read over. Then I'll kind of give you my opinion on everything. And I'll ask you guys to comment on that and everything. But let's get into it. Brown comments on Penn State scoring late touchdown. At some point, it'll come back around. The game is over with. All Penn State had to do was take a couple of knees to close the game out, as West Virginia was out of timeouts, trailing 31-15. Instead, Penn State head coach James Franklin wanted the second-team offense to go put up one more in the end zone, and did so in the final seconds to run up the score. Following the game, WVU head coach Neal Brown was asked if the decision to do so bothered him. Nah, who cares? Here's the thing. I wouldn't have done it, but it doesn't bother me. I just think stuff like that comes around and goes around. At some point, it'll come back around. When? I don't know. But it doesn't bother me. I'm not upset about it. Franklin was asked directly about the decision to try and score, but did comment on the satisfaction of seeing the unit put 7 more points on the board. To get the second offense in there and the backup quarterback in there, and for them to be able to move the ball down the field and get a score was big, Franklin said. It's something to build on. There's going to be a different style with Bo Pribula. He's still able to throw the ball and be successful. We didn't ask him to do that in this game based on what the score was and where the ball was. But there are some things that are going to show up in Bo's game that he's going to help us this year. Next year, Penn State will make the return trip to Morgantown on August 31st. That said, there's no guarantee Neal Brown will be the head coach for the Mountaineers in that game. There's a lot to sort through there. My first thought was Neal Brown, to me, seemed upset, even though he said he wasn't. It's the classic, I'm not crying, you're crying. I'm just chopping onions here. I'm not really crying, that kind of thing. I get it. I get the frustration. And listen, guys, if you guys watched my video after the game when I went live, I was extremely frustrated. And I said some things that I now regret in some senses. Some of the things I'll stand by. But there's a couple of things I want to get to with what Neal Brown said. What goes around comes around can be perceived as we'll see him in Morgantown next year. Now, we know Penn State returns the bulk of this team, assuming a lot of these guys don't go pro. I mean, they're going to be losing some players, don't get me wrong. But West Virginia is really going to be better next year if they can keep this team together. We've got a lot of young talent on this team that really saw their first action, especially against a highly rated team in Penn State on the road in a hostile environment on Saturday. And a lot of us really feel like those guys are going to do well going forward in Mountaineer uniforms. A couple of them didn't even play in the game. But I do want to retract something I said right after the game. I said it was a classless move. I said that Franklin ran up the score, and I do want to retract that. Based on some of his post-game comments, listen, I get it. I love to watch film. I love to study film. And I can only imagine the obsession for a coach at the major college football level to be able to get your second and third guys on film and be able to correct from that is a really big deal. And I didn't consider that whenever they scored that last touchdown. All I saw was it's making the game look worse to me than it actually was, number one. It pushed it on beyond the spread. That was number two. And it just, I mean, at that point, I was looking for us to look a little more respectable. And so I think that's why I had the reaction that I did after the game. And so I'm a big enough man to admit when I'm wrong about something, and I was mostly wrong on that. But let's get back on what Neal Brown said just for a second, guys. How do you feel about what Neal Brown said in the post game versus Penn State? I would really like to know how you guys feel about that. Drop a comment below. Let me know your reaction to Neal Brown's comments. I really haven't seen a whole lot on that. I've seen a few articles published. I've seen a few people on Twitter say certain things or X. And also, guys, don't forget to subscribe to Mountaineer Paul Talks Football if you get a chance. Would really appreciate that, guys. It helps when you do that. Don't forget to like the video as well. It says over 80% of the people that watch these aren't liking, and it always helps when we get those likes up. Obviously, Neal Brown may not even be the coach next year, and so this probably comes off a little bit of sour grapes, and I completely understand that. I understand this Penn State perspective on that. Overall, though, there's just a ton of frustration within the program. It's coming out in different ways through different outlets. I'll be doing a different video on the Pat McAfee comments and what he said about the situation, the state of the program a little bit later on today. I'll probably be releasing that either today or tomorrow. Stay tuned for that. But overall, guys, it was just a bad look, I think, for Neal to say these. You got to understand, though, they're asking these guys right after 60 minutes of high-pressure football. And Neal Brown probably really did feel like these guys had a chance to win the game. At the end of the day, we didn't. There's a lot to build on, guys. We're going to go over report cards later on this week. We've got a lot of content planned for you guys. Really hope you stick around. Stay with me as we go through some of that, guys. I'm looking to get a Telestrator app so that I can try to break down a little bit of film. By no means am I a pro, but I can break down a little bit of film for you guys. For those of you that don't understand it, maybe understand different formations, different things we do. I would love to talk about some of the calls that Neal made this past week and really go over them and maybe what he was thinking in certain situations. Because even though you hear this all the time, it does ring true. Had he gotten those plays off, people would say, oh, my God, Neal's really changed his play calling this year, right? So it's only fair to talk about both ends of it. Other than that, guys, I really don't have a whole lot else on this subject. This is going to be a shorter video. I do appreciate you guys and everything you do for me, truthfully, as I said earlier in the video. Hope you guys stay subscribed. Hope you guys keep coming back. And I hope you guys like the video, as always. I truly appreciate it, guys. This has been another episode of Mountaineer Paul Talks Football. This episode is over. I am out.
This is for Cameron. Tim Cal.